Hello everyone, welcome back to another exciting video on Git. So we've talked about some Git basics, we talked about how to create our local file and do a lot of stuff with it. But today what we're going to talk about Bitbucket. We're going to talk about how can we link Bitbucket in our local repository. So common best practice is you have a local Git environment that is on your computer. You also have something up on a cloud. The reason for that is if you're building an application, you're utilizing multiple people and everyone's working on different files. You want to make sure that you have a central location that you're able to store those files, but more importantly, you want to be able to have some type of backup process. So what we're going to do today is we're going to set up a repository on a server. We're going to communicate with the two and make sure they're able to link up and pull information and then pass information back and forth, and we're just going to test that out. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up a repository. So I'm in my Bitbucket account. You want to be to bitbucket.org, sign in. I have repositories, and I'm going to click plus. I'm going to do a repository. So I'm going to give it some type of name. Your owner, I'm this guy right here. Repository, I'm going to call this, let's see, I'm building an application. I'm building some type of app. So I'm going to call it a weather app, even though it's not a weather app, but that's what I'm going to call it. All right, it's a private repository Git, and I'm going to hit create repository. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my terminal. I'm using a Mac. You may be using Windows, so let me move that up a little bit. All right, so we made it a little bit bigger. Let's see, where are we at currently? All right, so we want to do it being a desktop. All right, there we are. So let's do a clear. So now what we need to do here at this point, we've opened it up. We need to, we have this set up here, we need to clone our library on here. So as you see here, right now we have nothing. So we have these two options here. You have HTTPS and SSH. I'll give you an example. Reason that you would use HTTPS is if you were using an IDE, such as, let's say that we're doing Java and we're using Eclipse, or if we're using Visual Studios, we will utilize this. If we're using code blocks or some other sort of program, Xcode or whatever, you would use the HTTPS. But in our case, if you're using some type of backend like the terminal, which is a lot quicker, but you have to remember the commands, we're going to use SSH. And if you remember in our previous video, we set up an SSH. So what you need to do is hover over this and copy it. So I'm going to go back to my terminal once I find wherever the heck I put it at. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a word called clone, because what we're doing at this point is we're just cloning our repository that we just created on our desktop. Okay, so now I'm going to do paste. All right, so we have clone and do it this right here, whatever we called it up here, and hit enter. All right, what did I do wrong? All right, you see what I did wrong? I put clone. It doesn't know what that means. I have to do git clone and then control V and hit return. All right, so that now it's asking me to enter a password in, which is fine. So enter my password in that you set up on Bitbucket. All right, it says you appear to have a clone a empty repository. So now if I go to my desktop, you will see that I have weather app. It's empty, no big deal. But at least we know that part worked. We're able to say that we created something up here. Now let's communicate with this guy here. That's good. That's a good start. All right, so let's do an LS. Let's do a PWD LS. Now let's go into the weather app. All right, so I'm gonna clear this screen. See where we're at. We're in the weather app. So what we need to do is add some files. So I'm gonna add touch. I'm gonna call it. We need a HTML file. Call it index to HTML. We need to have some other files. We need to have, let's see, it's going to be weather app dot. We need some JavaScript. We're going to need some, let's see here, we'll call specific weather areas. So we need central regions and so forth, or states. We'll call this the south dot py. We'll do north dot py and so forth. And then what we're going to do is hit enter. Okay, now we're going to do a git status like we did before. Let me make sure I increase this a little bit. There we go. So we do a git status. It shows that we have 4 new files that we want to track. Okay. Well, 4 new files that were added, and then we're not tracking them right now. So I'm going to do git add. This is stuff that we did before, and hit A. Now we'll do status again. You'll see that we added 4 new files. I did the HMTL. It should be HTML, but you know what I mean. This is just practice. So I'm going to do git commit M, and I'm going to put adding new files and hit enter. Now you see that I've added these new files right here. I'm going to do a git status just to see where we're at. It says your branch is based on the origin master, but upstream is gone. No big deal. We're fine there. So one thing I'm always telling you to do is we always want to do a git pull before we do a push. And why you want to do that is, let's say that okay, I have a gentleman in my class, in my C programming class, named Mario, and I have a guy by the name of Adam. So let's say that Adam had made some changes to some code. And let's say that Mario decided to go ahead and say, you know what, I don't think Adam did any work today. I'm just going to go on about my business, and I'm just going to push my stuff up there. And it's going to cause a conflict. You know why? Because Adam did add files, and you guys are butting heads. So that's why it's important to make sure it only takes a few seconds to do a pull. Always call it download the latest and the greatest. That way you're up to date, and then you push your new code in. If you don't do it that way, you'll run into some problems down the road. And I'm not picking on Adam and Mario, but they're the 2 names that pop in my head. All right, so now we've did that information right there. So always do a pull. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do git pull. I'm going to type in origin, and then by default it's going to be a master branch. So I'm going to do master and hit enter, and I'm enter my password in again. And it says couldn't remote ref, the remote end hung unexpectedly. All right, let's see what happened here. 1 second. All right, so I was able to push my new code up there. So sorry I started it. I did a pull and had some issues. So I ended up doing a push, as you see here. Push origin master, enter my password, and it's just counting objects, which is 3. Delta compression used 8 threads. I won't read all that stuff. But 2 bit buckets. So it's saying that it added the files to bit bucket and master branch. So next thing I need to do is I need to go up the bit bucket and see if those files are there. So I go into bit bucket. I go into overview. Nope, don't want to add that. Let's see here. 38 seconds ago, commits. All right, so it shows that I added new files. Click on a commit message. Let's bring in all kind of stuff here. So it shows that I added these 3 files. They're empty, no big deal, but it shows that now, even though I had that wrong, those files were not originally on here. Remember when we created this repository, it was blank? So now what we did here is we took our messages, our files from our local machine and moved them up here on this server. Okay, so now we know our stuff's working. We have our commits working properly. We're able to say that we have our files locally and we move them up. All right, so now let's do something else. Let's go back to overview. Okay, so what we don't have is a README file, which we talked about, which is pretty important to have. So let's create one from the server. So know that it's not locally. So let's do create README file. You know what? It already has some basic information in here. So we'll put something here. This is a class at CCAC that we are teaching how to use Git properly. All right, great. So something simple I added there. Now I'm gonna click commit message. We're just saying, let's see. We'll leave it like that. README created online with Bitbucket. Hit commit. Awesome. So it shows that we committed that message. Now, let's see if I'm able to pull that back down, because I had problems pulling that down before. So I should be able to, hopefully it'll let me pull it down. If not, then I'm having some issues. So I'm trying to pull it down. All right, so that time it worked. Let me pull it down. As you see here, it one file change, 29 insertions, added the readme.md file. So now, if I do an ls, that readme.m file is on here. That wasn't on here before. So now if I want to read it, I could do .md, and look at that. That file matches what we have on the server. Ta-da. How about that? So this right here was a quick video on how to set up. What we did in this video overall is we set up Bitbucket account. Previously we set up an SSH, so we're able to do it securely across the board. We're able to clone account. We're able to push new code locally up to the server. We're able to make a change on the server and pull it back down into our local repository. So in this class, whether you're taking my CIT 119 class or if you're taking my CIT 145 class, these are things that'll happen. You may have a exercise that say, hey, you know what? We need to write this program and I need you to do a couple of things. I need you to commit this locally, and also I need you to push it up to your repository. I may say, hey, lesson number 4, I need you to create a new repository called this, and so forth. So you'll have to do these steps potentially over and over, but they'll become easier because the best thing to do is take what I did, make a chart, create a list, and so forth. So if you have any questions, message me. If not, thank you for listening and have a great day.